Justin, you've been saying that we don't deserve this bull run.
I feel like we've somewhat deserved it. I feel like we've endured 2 years of pain. We endured FTX, and now
But have we learned the lessons? Have we learned the lessons, Taiki?
It's like the saying, like every day you stray further from God. Like that's a bit of that.
Welcome, everybody. We're keeping it extra steady this week. We just saw that our benevolent dictator Do Kwon is unfortunately getting extradited to the United States, so we're being extra steady just for his sake. I'm Jordy, the CIO of Selene Capital. As usual, we have with us Justin, CEO of Astaria. We have Taiki, the humble farmer and full-time researcher now. And we have Thicky. Oh, okay. Thicky looks a little bit different again. I think it's the haircut this time. Did you do something to the hair, Thicky? What's going on here?
To celebrate Do's extradition, we're going Korean style this week.
Korean style. So this is Jeff, one of the co-founders of Sei Network, which we'll get into, and also one of the people who has some very contrarian takes that I think will be, pretty exciting to discuss on our show today. Jeff, maybe just give us a quick kind of like 60 seconds, like what have you built with Sei? I mean, and I know it's a Cosmos chain. What can you tell us?
And thank you guys for having me on. I've watched both Justin and Taiki's videos on YouTube. So this is kind of like the Avengers of YouTube's. I think like Finematics is maybe the one that we're at least I'm missing. Yeah, the quick background about myself and our team. My co-founder and I were both from San Francisco, born and raised, spent our entire lives there. We met well over a decade ago, worked on a lot of different things together. Um, the the impetus for Say first came because my co-founder Jay, he had spent almost 4 years, led a big part of the crypto engineering effort at Robinhood. He was particularly personally impacted with the whole Robinhood GameStop situation. I think it led to a lot of loss of trust in the company, and naturally ended up leading us to diving down the whole DEX rabbit hole. It's like, how can you rebuild a lot of the magic that Robinhood had, um, uh, but maintain that kind of trust with users? So at the time we were building a DEX, we looked at all the different places you could build a DEX, and it became pretty clear you can't build a competitive DEX. The problem is far more, far deeper than that. You can try, but it will never be as competitive as Coinbase, Binance, all the household names that we already know. So that's what led us down the whole the Say path. The simple way to think about Say is only focused on solving one problem. If Say is successful, you can build a DEX on chain, fully decentralized, and it will operate nearly exactly the same as any sort of centralized exchange or application. We believe that's the most important problem to solve in crypto, and I can talk a bit about sort of why that is. In order to solve that, Say takes the entire layer one stack, every single part of it, and optimizes every single piece for just that use case. Um,
Hmm.
the, the sort of simple thesis we have is we believe that the core value prop of blockchains is the exchange of digital assets.
Yeah, this is a spicy take that I think we definitely want to dig into as one of the segments, one of the main segments on the show. But first of all, I mean, I guess like let's just kind of quickly recap what's been a wild bullish week. I mean, the last 7 days. I would say, if you're in left curve or right curve, you're doing extremely well. You got your like Bitcoin doing really good, and you got your Luna Classic and Bonk and whatever else doing well. Taiki, have you mid curved it with like Maker and stuff this week, or how are you doing?
yeah, I'm very mid curve actually. I guess like fortunately like I don't own any cash, so I'm like very exposed, but I am very mid curve with like okay like my PE ratios, my buybacks. Market doesn't care, right? They just want to buy memes, so I'm kind of coping. But like I have to, I guess, adapt to the ever changing environment. And Bitcoin's working on its 8th straight green weekly candle, which is insane. The last time that happened was 2017. So, like, yeah, the markets are insanely strong. And I'm kind of just sitting on my hands, hoping that better opportunities will come. And I am right on my thesis. Oh
Oh
yeah.
yes.
What came after those 8 weeks, those 8 green weeks in 2017? You said.
So in 2017, there was a run up from $1,000 to $30,000, so it's like 3x. And then there was a 40% correction, but obviously Bitcoin went to 20K. Um, the other instances of green weekly candles was 2015 Q4. So historically, it's a good sign for things to come. Of course, things look a little overheated, but I am bullish for 2024. I think it's really hard not to be.
Justin, have you been getting any airdrops? I know you kind of play around different chains. I'm praying for your sake that you somehow got some Jito airdrop on Solana, or no?
No, I don't want to talk about it. I like to say I'm a recovering mid curver, but I don't think I've left to either side yet. I don't think they're going to accept me at the highest IQ bands, and it's hard for me to sort of play at the bottom with the meme coins. So right now, I just have some Ethereum exposure, which I've had, and been accumulating over the past couple of years, but I'm not buying any more right now. And then my Mantle coins, which we're going to $1 with Mantle, so excited about that.
Wait,
But yeah, it's been a crazy week. I agree with Taiki. It feels a little spooky. I've started to hear chatter about crypto in person now. I was at dinner last night or the night before, and I heard someone saying like, "Oh, I can't believe I sold my Bitcoin. I had 3 Bitcoin when it was only $3,000 or something like that." So we're starting to hear this. People are like more willing to talk about crypto and sort of thinking about it more, which on one hand it's refreshing after 2 years of just no one wanting to talk to you about crypto or blockchain and thinking the industry was dead. But on the other hand, like silly stuff is going crazy right now, so it's a little concerning.
That's actually the almost the physical manifestation of there's this meme on Twitter recently that of these millions of airdrop farmers on ZK Sync trying every dex uh, for maybe cents on the dollar, and then you have like maybe 3 or 4 like manlets on Solana playing around with Jito just to get this.
Yeah, I saw if
yeah.
you like staked 10 Sol for just a week, you would now have like a $6,000 airdrop or something like that. Some crazy stats.
Justin bought the phone, but he got no airdrops.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jito thing, I would say, like, it's kind of just for the sake of our viewers. It's launched just a while ago. As we're recording, it's around 2 billion kind of FTV, which is very close to Lido. So yeah, that's interesting, and we'll loop back to this at the past of the week at the end, I'm sure. But um, Jeff, are you seeing any parallels with Jito and any of the previous launches, or how are you seeing this Jito launch, Jeff?
I've never met the Judo team, although I have heard kind of their founder, I think Buffalo on Twitter, is excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think my from a sort of layman's 30,000 foot view, uh, Judo has potential to capture the Flashbots sort of a narrative that was very much left on the table because Flashbots still hasn't or may not have plans to create a token. So all of that sort of pent up hype around MEV, there's not really a way for both traders, speculators, or users to really express that kind of interest. So I think they have some of those tailwinds. I think there's some similarities to Blur launching a token and OpenSea kind of continuing to refuse to do so. Uh, so that's sort of my 2 cents.
So it's sort of like a vampire attack through token play.
Yeah, maybe more on the narrative side. It's a
Narrative.
different trading, so perhaps less user overlap. But yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I mean, we know with OpenSea, the reason they weren't doing a token was they were kind of worried about all the regulation, all these things. They were very slow. I think with Flashbots, it's probably more idealistic. I know that you know we're talking about the wing of the very hardcore believers of
Mm.
Ethereum, uh, you know um, fairness and neutrality and these types of things that they. I had heard rumors about the round. I think they did like $1 billion round with Paradigm and some other investors, and they were just like, yeah, we might not even make any money, whatever. It's $1 billion And they were also just being very tight and giving allocation. So it was like everybody was getting capped at like a very small amount because they wanted to keep this sort of decentralization thesis even within their own round. Um, so it's an interesting comparison. Do you think? I mean, here's a spicy one. Like, do you think that these sort of like 2 billion FTVs, and I saw Bonk is like overtaking Pepe, so that's getting towards 1 billion of an absolute meme vapor coin as well. Do you see these things kind of like lasting? Are we in this like kind of 2021 is just starting, or do you think it's gonna come back?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very common question I get from a lot of our investors, a lot of my friends. I'd say by and large, the bet I'm currently sitting on is that this isn't we're not seeing the early innings of a bull market, which I think might be a little bit more controversial. The main reason why I don't think this is a real bull market is we haven't seen a real catalyst yet. And if you just look at the last cycle, what were the meaningful catalysts? It was by and large NFTs finally being usable, opening up like a brand new way to get involved and for a lot of people to speculate. Um, uh, DeFi also started to really, really work. And then people were starting to get a lot more involved in 2021, early kind of 2022, 2020. And then that coupled with COVID, kind of the stimulus, people sitting at home with nothing to do. I think that was like the stars aligning. What I want to see to to think that this is a real bull market is a meaningful catalyst. So
Hmm.
this could be gaming.
So like the whole BlackRock, like oh like yeah, but you don't think it's like Larry Fink going on CNBC is like the catalyst? You don't think that's sort of like the sign?
Yeah, I think there's I'd say maybe there's like a 10-20% chance um, that the Ethereum ETF is a real catalyst. I think there's the most likely chance is that funds trickle in way slower than people expect into the ETF. Will happen over the course of a year, 2 years. But understand there's also a small chance that this ETF gets announced, gets launched, and every retirement fund kind of opens the gates. So we see that move in a lot faster. But I do think that it's overreacted.
I noticed you skipped over from we're even past talking about the BTC ETF now, and we're now into the ETH ETF. Does that mean more? You think like this BTC ETF catalyst has already been priced in for the most part, and we need something else now to kick things off, or what's your thought process for jumping right to ETH now?
But I'm using the Ethereum ETF just as more of an example. I think
Hmm.
by and large, people tend to overreact. And in traditional finance, things always move slower than we'd expect. I think there's certainly excitement, but it won't be just a sort of waterfall, perhaps as people expect. But I think there's a chance that I'm completely proven wrong. There's 10-15% chance.
I'll take the other side of that bet. I mean, I'm feeling like this is really kicking off. I know it's eight straight candles. Taiki was telling us green candles in a row now, first time since 2017, and we just saw in Congress yesterday, like all the Senate hearings and Jamie Dimon. This is a hated rally, and hated rallies can last a lot longer than like normal rallies because there's a lot of other people that kind of are sidelined and have to deal with there was a lot of crypto hate. So I don't know, that makes me feel like this can kick off a proper cycle.
Yeah, it's almost like um, uh, the more anti-consensus the rally is, yeah, the more folks uh, are sidelined, the more opportunity there is to kind of eventually have that capital flow in.
Yeah, I think capital was in like pretty strongly. I saw like over the weekend as we're recording like on Sunday night, with like the infamous like CME gaps and stuff. There was a massive gold, but like just like a huge spike, and everybody's like, "Oh man, here we go!" Like gold bugs are back, and Peter Schiff is gonna start like bull posting on Twitter. and the thing just got like fully Dalai Lama, but then like it came all the way back. I mean, the reversion was brutal, and it just contrasts so heavily with Bitcoin that just keeps going. That I think that the thesis that this is the better version, and the boomers gotta like update, otherwise it's not gonna work out for them. I think that can get traction as well.
I was listening to this great Blockworks podcast last night, and they had a very interesting point of like, why would you hold gold when you can hold Bitcoin? If you want something stable, hold dollars or like T bills, right? And if you want to take on risk or like hedge out dollar currency risk, wouldn't you rather hold Bitcoin? And of course, you're going to have more volatility, but the upside's there with gold. The moves are minuscule. It doesn't really make much sense to me.
Yeah, although you can take that argument and like push it further. And I'm curious to get Jeff's take on this, because there was another Empire podcast. Santiago, infamously, like this week, he's getting a lot of hate on for like going against the Ethereum religion, but he made a very similar argument, saying like he took it a step further. He said Bitcoin's not going to go up 10x easily, so why would I hold Bitcoin? Maybe like I should just like go into like Solana at this point, just kind of keep going down that risk curve. Maybe that's a VC mindset, just kind of always looking for that 10x. I think normal people don't necessarily need a 10x. I saw the chart of Bitcoin in TRY, like Turkish lira. I posted this on my Twitter, and it's been at an all-time high for a while now, which is crazy because for us we're thinking about $69,000 and we're only at like 45. But a lot of other currencies just get so devalued that if you're in a lot of these countries around the world, everything's fine. Like you've been at an all-time high. But yeah, Jeff, like what do you think of Santiago's take of just like, I'm not getting a 10x in Bitcoin, do I just go down the risk curve?
I have my own thoughts on both points that you just said. So first on Santiago's take, this has actually consistently been discussed in traditional kind of capital markets as well. Like for all the folks that like go on to Bloomberg and talk about sort of what direction the S&P is heading, the interesting psychological sort of effect at play here is if a person goes on air and says, I think Solana has a 20% chance of eclipsing Ethereum, something crazy. If that person's wrong, by and large, everyone forgets. If that person's right, that person is almost credited with kind of taking that generational call. So
It's like a
if
free
you always play the EV, yeah, if you actually kind of measure the EV of a statement like that on air, it is so massively weighted to the positive. So that's at least been some of the psychological explanation for this has happened time and time again in normal markets.
I remember Arthur Hayes. Like I somehow ran into this clip of Arthur Hayes on CNBC like in 2018 or something, and he was talking about how he was very sure like Bitcoin was about to go to 50K, and the presenter is like, "Are you really believe that? You really believe 50K?" And Arthur's like, I don't know. Like, who knows? I just want people to trade. Like, I have a trading platform. I just want people to trade. I don't actually know. He couldn't keep a straight face. He couldn't like stick to it. I think Santiago's a little bit more like believes it. I don't think he's just trying to like make a crazy statement for the sake of it. But on the other hand, if you look at like this way of thinking, you always just keep going down the risk curve, because you're always like, well, Solana's not going to go to 600, because that would be like hundreds of billions, and it didn't even manage to get to that when it was being manipulated last cycle. So like maybe I need to go to Sei. I don't know, like whatever it's like the next thing down.
Yeah, I mean your point earlier on sort of Bitcoin's value prop increasing relative to currencies devaluing and the lira having some instability. There's a sort of interesting thesis. Like a few folks were discussing that I think is at least interesting to think about. The It's clear that the value prop of one of the big value props of Bitcoin is like the store of value. You could argue that the more unstable different global currencies get, the greater the value prop of Bitcoin becomes relative. And I think we're very clearly in this broader trend of deglobalization. Like more and more countries are now starting to take the stance of, you know what, like our people first, our citizens first. Let's close off a bit more. Um, the the sort of pessimistic way to think about it is a lot of, managing countries is incredibly difficult. It's proven to be really, really hard. By and large, more and more countries, as they deglobalize, will find themselves facing a lot more instability in their currency, and thus Bitcoin's sort of value prop increases over time as this continues to be a like more of a global trend.
Yeah, like no, Mike McDonald had this tweet out where, if you remember El Salvador, they started buying Bitcoin and they were instantly underwater, and people kind of thought of, you know, I guess El Salvador is a joke, but now they're in the green, right? Like, so imagine if El Salvador starts to just improve their entire economy through their Bitcoin purchases. You can see a nation like a worldwide FOMO of maybe other third world countries with weak currencies just adopt the Bitcoin standard, and that alone can be a really strong narrative.
Even if that does happen, do we not still agree that like Solana, Cardano, Ethereum, like all of these smaller cap assets will outperform? Like it's sort of hard for me to imagine that, BTC ends up just leaving the rest of the market behind in perpetuity and these other assets don't catch up. And so I definitely resonate with this statement of like, I feel this holding ETH. Like, why am I holding ETH? I could have bought Solana between $10 to $20. I had like a 6 month, year long period to do it. We sort of knew that it would outperform ETH if we ever get a bull market again. And so, like, I've definitely been feeling a lot of that FOMO or sort of like wishing I was on the other side of things. Like, Cardano has not broken out yet. It should outperform.
I don't know. I don't know that those things will like outperform. It looks like the market loves the new coins, and it really likes the new coins. I mean, we're looking at like Celestia,
Mm,
just insane, right? Like it's in the tens of billions of FTV now. I mean, it crossed that 10 billion mark, and we're talking about a data availability layer. It's not like you're like on Celestia like doing stuff. You just like it's being used by other chains maybe, and it's also like very cheap, so it's not like costing that much. People just like the new coins, it looks like, and we saw that as we talked about with Jito. um yeah, I don't know if the Cardanos are going to be the winners this time.
you would agree that from like cycle low to top, Cardano should outperform ETH, right? Or you would expect that or no?
I mean, those things already have tens of billions of market cap, right?
Mm,
So I don't think it can get to hundreds of billions. I mean, it didn't get there last cycle. I can't see it getting
yeah.
there. It's
Yeah.
it concentrates too much wealth in a couple people's hands. In this case, your favorite buddy Charles
Hodgkinson.
Hodgkinson. We're still waiting for Hodgkinson to respond to come on Steady Lads. um, but yeah, I mean, at that point, he would just be dumping billions to buy new farmland to plant some stuff.
This is actually like one of the worst things I think about our space is like if you really think about it, like Cardano is a great example. Everyone on the founding team, like they've already had their liquidity event, and it's almost sort of like bearish for them to try to execute because they could fail, right? So like if you guys remember, Cardano was going like crazy up until they launched smart contracts. But then the smart contracts, from what I understand, sort of like pseudo failed. No one was using them. They didn't really work. They were running on this old standard, and the price just tanked from there. So it's actually like bad for Cardano holders and for the team, I think, if they actually start trying to execute and stumble. And, most people fail. That's normal. So there's this weird misaligned incentive where in crypto, you have your liquidity event immediately. The token can trade really well just on memetics alone. And so, like, there's no incentive to deliver, which is really weird, I think, about our space.
But I think as our industry grows more, I think that should change, right? I mean, maybe Cardano just becomes a relic of the past cycle, and in 2024, 2025, it's like the new coins that get people excited. It's the new applications, and I know Jeff said that there's like not anything new that's been built right now, and that's one of the reasons that he doesn't believe that we're going to see like a sustainable bull market. But you can also argue that most of the primitives have already been made, and like because in 2020 we didn't have DeFi, right? In 2021 we didn't really have NFTs, and it was this new thing. And now there can be products that build on top of it, whether it be gaming or better types of DeFi products. And maybe the ETF legitimizes the majors, Bitcoin and Ether. And then we see a trickle down of capital that go into DeFi, right? Like assets that TradFi can kind of get their heads around. Like, isn't that enough to create like a new bull market? Like, what do you guys think about like that type of like more institutional adoption?
I think it's enough. But I mean, I understand what Jeff is saying. I mean, we saw last cycle, there was this huge problem with like the teams that were doing NFTs because you get the mint, you get all the money up front. Like the vast majority of, is just, you just get it immediately. And then they just don't do anything. They're not motivated. They try, some of them tried, they made some game, whatever. And then they just, they're not motivated. They give up. So it's kind of interesting that you want to keep people motivated and fighting for attention, right? Like how do you guys at Say like manage to fight for attention with Sui app? Like there's so many blockchains, so many, even Cosmos L1s, there's so many L2s. How do you like fight that war? Have you just decided like you're gonna focus on a couple things and get really, really good at them?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important question. Like there's a lot of really brilliant, very very well researched sort of teams that struggle to stay relevant. The I would distill it down to two key points. The first is keeping things simple. I think consistently really good teams get this one wrong. Um, you may have this sort of this level of excitement for what you're building, the sort of technical innovation that you're working on. Uh, the average person most certainly does not. You have to put yourself in their shoes sometimes. With Say, our team very much tries to keep it as simple as possible. We have a very straightforward thesis. All blockchains come down to the core value prop of the exchange of digital assets. Um, how do you build the best possible infrastructure for exchanging assets? These assets can include tokens, can be NFTs, can be risk, can be state changes, um, anything across the board.
Yeah, I want to like underline that. I think it's such a huge statement that you're making. And when you first told me this, in our like personal conversations, months ago, I was like, I don't know. There's a lot of other stuff. It's not just about trading tokens. Like, crypto has all this other stuff. But when you keep like focusing and distilling it down, I'm kind of like leaning more towards your thesis, which is, yeah, like, ZK, because I'm talking to teams, like amazing teams, super cryptographic. They're doing, the next level of ZK cryptography, all this stuff. And then we go through it and we're like, okay, what's actually going to happen? And it's just like, oh, the tokens are going to be exchanged without people knowing like who's trading and what the balances are, and it'll be like dark pool and stuff. So it still comes down to that, despite how like fancy the package is. Does that mean like everything is just a casino? Or, like most of it's a casino?
Yeah, I think like an important thing um, to highlight is trading does not always mean speculation. It's very much speculation is definitely part of crypto in the market today. But the exchange of assets can be used for day-to-day activities, can be used for transactions, payments. So it expands, I think, far greater than people probably expect. The best example you can look at is just the most well-adopted apps today. Um, Nearly all the most adopted applications in Web3 and crypto end up revolving around exchanging assets. So you can look at either direct exchanges, you can look at the games like Axie and Step In, the ones that are a bit more well known. Fundamentally, the user experience comes down to exchanging the shoe NFTs, the sort of in-game assets. If you look at MetaMask, Tether, even the non-exchanges, you'll find that Tether's core use case today is as a trading pair.
Yeah.
MetaMask's majority of users on MetaMask end up in the same destinations. It's like Uniswap, OpenSea, roughly the same places we expect.
I also want to highlight, and this has been my thesis or our thesis for a while, is that transferring tokens is not it's not simple, right? Like if you think about it, a loan, an Aave loan is literally just a swap. All loans in the world are swaps. You exchange A for B, and then you have some sort of settlement at the end where you exchange back or you liquidate, which is also just a transfer. So That it is really interesting. I never thought about it that way, but it is true that like everything on chain is just a swap when you think about it. And like there's some structure that gets tied to that or added on top, but at its core, it's all just a swap, which is pretty interesting to think about.
Yeah, I guess blockchains are just very transparent, like accounting systems. Like what you're designing, like for say you're designing a blockchain that's just trying to be really good at like that thing, right? Do you think it can create new markets that currently don't exist? And like, do you see anything that's being built on Say that isn't being built elsewhere, or is it still too early?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where blockchain gets in crypto gets such a bad rep. Sometimes is people view it as very speculation first. Where I think we'll start to see more and more of that magic and that value prop take hold is exactly in markets that didn't previously exist. So one example recently we've been thinking about is carbon credits. Carbon credits rule a lot more of the kind of the corporate decision making than people probably expect. Like Disney gets involved with hundreds of millions of dollars of carbon credits a year. Um, right now, there's no market. Creating a market absolutely creates genuine value, and that trickles down. So that's at least one of many examples we could probably think of that where the exchange of assets isn't just speculation. I think it drives a lot of real value.
Another question I have is like, do you guys ever think other commodities will be traded on blockchains, such as corn or like those types of commodities? Um, is that too early? Because you kind of have to have a settlement or someone to custody these assets and whatnot. Do you think that can also be a thing? And then maybe like things like that is like what gets TradFi, like all that money on board, right? Things we don't expect that get adoption, that create actual value.
Maybe we could splice it in here, but I didn't mean to cut you off there. But when Larry Fink was going on his tour talking about the BTC ETF, he actually said, we envision a world where all of our products, all of our ETFs could be tokenized in the future.
I think it's just an example of the pent-up interest in crypto. And we are hearing from clients around the world about the need for crypto. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality.
And so I do think it's early, but I think like in the 5 to 10 year time period, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw more financial products from the traditional world brought on chain and tokenized.
I mean, they are, I think, backed, which is Switzerland based, and they're tokenizing all these ETFs. They're already trying to be one of the kind of leaders on this. And yeah, it should grow. I don't think it's as easy to do what you're talking about, Taiki, in terms of commodities just directly on chain, because there is physical settlement. And, in the real world, like there's a huge amount, like once I took like by mistake a gold future to settlement back when I was a gold bug. And, they just like delivered some fucking physical gold. And, someone has to do that. And it's hard to do it when you're just in the digital like land as we are.
Can you tell us about that, Jordy? Did you have to pay a delivery fee? Did it come with like Brink's home security? Like what happened?
Yeah, I mean, you basically, in this case, it was just like ask the CME to store it in their vault, and then you pay some fee, and eventually you kind of return it back. So, yeah, I think it cost like 50K or something just to handle it. I've had other people that I've worked with inadvertently take like natural gas to expiry, and that's really, really bad. You do not want to take natural gas to expiry. You will be like calling Citadel, begging them to get you out of it, and they will destroy you on the spread there. So careful if you're trading some of the energy stuff. That's pretty crazy. And there's no perps in TradFi, so everyone's on calendar futures. For now, maybe they'll pick up the perps. Jeff, another question is like, we have Ethereum where the value capture. We're looking at like what's the revenue Ethereum, and it's the gas. It's a lot of gas. It's expensive, but it kind of gets burnt, and then it helps the narrative of money for ETH, right? Because it creates like buying pressure, scarcity, and Justin Drake and like all this jazz. Okay, then you have like Solana, which is thousandth of a cent. You don't need a lot to use it for forever. And it seems to be what I call kind of community money. And I ask our guests this frequently. I want to get their take on like, is community money like real? Is it sustainable? Do you kind of see just, or do you think that, I think Anatoly is not averse to this, where the things built on Solana might be worth than more than the token, because the token doesn't need to accrue all the value.
The framework that Anatoly talks about is the very fundamental definition of a platform. The word platform typically gets heavily misused because a lot of projects and apps across the board do it to try to spin a greater vision than there is. The definition of a platform is the stuff built on top of this thing is worth more than that thing. A classic example is like Windows. Windows is like the purest definition of a platform. All of the apps and stuff that you use on Windows, add them together is worth more than Windows. Facebook is usually a great example of the opposite. It's viewed as a platform. Facebook eats most of the value. If you look at like the news sites like BuzzFeed and all those things that actually build on Facebook, kind of pay for the ad revenue, use that to get users, they by and large get squeezed. The big opportunity with Solana, with Sei as well, is the applications absolutely will one day become far, far more valuable, magnitudes more than the underlying chain. And it gets back to the kind of the question we were talking about earlier. Like simplicity is important as part of that journey. The second is shipping. How do you stay relevant? You continue to ship, and that's like where our team kind of defaults. And I think kind of V2 and some of the things that we've been announcing and working on is probably the best example of that.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions about it. I mean, we've seen, especially during the bear market that we were just in, any chain not Ethereum has a really hard time getting TVL. Like people just don't have like an easy way to bridge. There's no, they just want to stick to Ethereum. That's it. And we have like Aptos and Sui and like all these like massively funded projects trading, at really high valuations, but there's like really not much TVL. And I think like even Cosmos changed, right? Like say like it's hard to get. I think maybe now with DYDX it'll get easier once USDC becomes native. But instead you're kind of like fighting for attention. You say like, okay, like how do we still stay relevant, like you said. I noticed that you guys are like frequently like number one on the Upbit volume. So like clearly like there's a lot of fans in Korea, maybe like other parts of Asia. I know you've been living out in Asia as well. What do you see as being kind of like the Asian community, and like how did you find success there?
I can't speak as much in terms of the specifics on the trading volume piece. I think that's almost like a different world where we play in the ecosystem. I can talk a lot more about sort of our efforts so far and the foundation's efforts in terms of growing presence in Asia, in terms of growing ecosystem in countries like Korea and others. The focus on Asia for the foundation very much started, I'd say, beginning of 2023. That's when the foundation started hiring a lot more folks out there. So now a very healthy chunk of the broader team is based out of Asia. The reason is pretty clear. A lot of the users in Asia aren't encumbered by regulatory sort of uncertainty. It's just they're so much more active and a lot of times underappreciated. So something as simple as translating the documents, making it easy for people to understand, to start getting involved, having people on the ground, meeting key folks in person. I think a lot of that helps. I know the foundation is doing kind of their first big event in Korea, going into Q1 and Q2. So it's something that they're starting to pay a lot more attention to, but just the early innings.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people have started to realize that just some of these really active countries are driving so much of the adoption and the momentum for crypto. So it's very well done there that you guys managed to get like local knowledge and local talent to help spread into that region. Do you want to tell us a little bit about V2? Like I saw the announcement. Sei's is kind of changing some of the architecture. Maybe tell us a little bit about that before we go to pasta of the week.
Yeah. So the simple way to think about Sei V2, it's the biggest announcement and sort of proposal that has been made around Sei since mainnet launch. It's the first parallelized EVM. The very simple way to think about it is it takes a lot of the big advantages in the advancement that Solana has made, which mostly revolve around taking the latest improvements in compute and using that just to make a simply better, more performant chain. And people always refer to the trilemma. Trilemma is more of a sort of a convenient mental framework than it is reality, in our opinion. As computing improves, you absolutely can make and cut a lot of areas from the trilemma. So it takes all of the advantages of Solana, combines it with a lot of just the Lindy, the developer traction, the ease of use of EVM and Solidity. So almost the best of both worlds. The way we sort of think about V2 is harks back to a bit of what you had mentioned earlier. Like when you talk to ZK projects, they're focused on making this big ZK advancement. Okay, cool. So what is it? How does it change the user experience? What does it do for users? Oh yeah, so now users can exchange an asset privately. Okay, cool. It comes down to exchanging assets. Sei and our team will always be focused on solving the user problem. Like users are now able to exchange assets a lot easier, just like they would be if they were trading on Coinbase or using Venmo or PayPal. What that user problem and what solving that user problem requires is a lot of different technical changes. It includes an EVM and parallelization. It's not just that the project is focused on parallelizing the EVM. The project is focused on the user problem. And EVM parallelization is one of many things that needs to be done. That's at least a bit of context.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So obviously, there's this saying that if you build it, they will come. But in practice, it doesn't really work like that. And you mentioned that for Sei, you want it to be a platform where like all the apps, if you combine the market cap or like the value, it'll be worth more than the platform itself. So how do you get those developers to build on Sei? Do you just give out grants, or is there like a better way that you think is that's available?
I mean, that's the quintessential question. The framework that I've thought about, kind of what is important to a layer one ecosystem, is there's a lot of similarities between crypto and other industries, a lot more than people probably expect. I think folks in Web3 people tend to view crypto as a brand new paradigm. Everything changes. Things work differently here. No, it was completely created by human beings. It's still subject to a lot of the same effects of a system that was created by human beings. If you look at other industries like biotech, like gaming, publishers play like a primary role in those industries. So let's just say the four of us created a brand new medicine. We still need to go to a lot of the big pharma companies like Pfizer and others who will help distribute that medicine to a lot of different hospitals. You can build a good vaccine, but you need someone to take those to all the hospitals in all the countries. Same with the game. If the four of us created a brand new game like GTA 6, you can build an incredible game. That doesn't mean people are going to play it. You need to get it to Steam. You need to distribute. You need Activision to help kind of put you in all the GameStops. The same goes for crypto. The four of us can create a brand new protocol, but you need a publisher partner. So the question is, who are the publishers in crypto? There's usually two types. It's either a centralized exchange or a sort of layer one or L2 or bridge. You can bucket all those together. Today, Ethereum is by far the biggest publisher. If you want to build an app, you build it on Ethereum. That gives you perhaps one of the best chances to get a user base, because that's where so many users still sit. In order for Sei to be competitive for that ecosystem to one day overtake Solana, Ethereum, it needs to be a better publisher partner than Ethereum.
That's like a different thesis, right? It's kind of refreshing that you combine the partnership both on the BD level and not just the tech. Others just focus on one or the other. You kind of have like a holistic approach, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, apps care about users. They care about finding users. Those users can hold the token. Those users can get involved with and use the application. It can bring them revenue potentially down the line. So focus on helping them get users. It's really difficult to compete against Ethereum. That's why Solana had an incredible advantage in partnering with an exchange at the time. BNB has an advantage because it has this big exchange partner. So you almost have like these two publishers working together to help applications built on top find more and more users. So that's the big focus for Sei. What that entails, grants help, but so is every other kind of ecosystem is very much doing the same thing. So I think I'd say a lesson and something the foundation team really keeps in mind is if everyone's going that way, just try the other direction.
It's been a great show, and I think the final segment will also be pretty epic. I've seen some of the pastas. So let's just like without further ado head to pasta of the week. Jeff, if you don't have one, feel free to be our judge this week because I've seen some of the other ones. Do you have a
Sounds good.
pasta, or are you gonna kind of choose the chef hat where it goes?
Yeah, I'll tip up my chin and I'll be the judge.
Okay, Taiki, do you wanna kick off with yours?
Yeah, so I'm definitely in the mid curve team. Where Sherlock Holmes has amazing memes, and it has this GIF or this video of trying to catch these altcoin pumps. Like this dog just so happy to catch a disc, but he just fails epically. I feel like this is my life right now. Like I buy coins, but they're boomer coins. I need to buy stuff that the degens like. Like we don't have the boomer money yet. Like the boomers are gonna buy my bags, but I have to I have to stop being so mid curve. I have to think left curve, probably left curve, maybe right curve. But
Is this in reference to Maker and Kanto? Or I mean, those coins are doing well though, right? Just to be clear.
yeah, no. But I feel like I'm kind of very rigid in my thesis around real world assets. I think I need to diversify a little bit more. I don't want to trade my opinion. I need to trade or
Yeah,
invest in.
Luna Classic, UST Classic, like this is the stuff that's going up 50% a day. So, Justin, you've been saying that we don't deserve this bull run. That probably intensifies your belief in that statement right now.
Exactly.
Wait, do you guys
Exactly.
think we've? I want to talk about that too. Like, I feel like we've somewhat deserved it. I feel like we've endured 2 years of pain. We endured FTX, and now,
But
like
have
we're
we learned the
seeing.
lessons? Have we learned the lessons, Taiki?
Uh,
It's like the
the
saying,
degens
like
now.
every day you stray further from God. Like that's a bit of that effect. Somebody should launch like a mid meme coin and dedicate it to Taiki.
Oh, it's the logo is my face.
So yeah,
It's called mid.
it's finally a meme coin that the mids can really rally around.
Midcoin.
Yo, that's community money, isn't it, Jordy? Like the middle of the
That
bell
is
corp has the most amount of people. So if you think about community money, maybe the mid
all right.
token.
If one of our Steady Lads listeners wants to do that, I will commit to seeding the Uniswap pool a little bit. Justin, do you want to show us what you've got?
I don't even know why I try anymore because I never win these things. But Jeff, maybe he'll come through for me. But I think this goes into that sort of mid curve theme that we've been talking about that Taiki just mentioned. We've been chatting over. So Andrew said, "How the fuck did Jito open at a higher FTV than Lido? I've been holding that bag from the stone cold bottom for over a fucking year. Piece of shit, Kanav, CEO of Jump Crypto. I'm going to flip a goddamn table." And I mean, this just resonates so well. It's like you can pick the assets that make sense, that have sustainable revenue, that are like leaders on the main chain. But to Jerdu's point, when a shiny new coin comes along, people are gonna sure as hell pick that one up. So that's my pasta for the week.
That resonates a lot. Like I think that's something it's one of the things I appreciate the most about crypto is especially coming from traditional finance and you you're effectively told you have to do all these things to be successful. So there's almost like a preordained definition of success. Like you go to like grade school, you go to Harvard, you go work at like a this top firm. Maybe you go to B school, you go to work at this next top firm, and you continue to kind of outcompete your peers. And the the beautiful irony is someone who doesn't get into the college you got into, who doesn't get the job that you got, ends up in honestly a much better spot. And I think that creates so much anger for a lot of the people that I've been surrounded by a big chunk of my life that it's almost like a poetic justice.
Well, I feel like I might have you picking me because we feel pretty aligned here, Jeff. So let's see what Jordy has.
Let's see what Jordy has indeed. So I have been cracking up this week seeing this dude, and maybe this guy's one of our fans. Maybe he's a Steady Lads listener. So if he is, we would love a $60,000 tip as well. We gotta pay some editing costs and everything here, but yeah, this dude with like the spectacle glasses and everything seems to be a crypto whale looking for a queen. Spent $62,000 against for this fine lady's pictures, I guess, and found her in real life. Yo, shout out to my boy here. So that is not the pasta. This is the prelude to the pasta. So Zach XBT has been doing some investigative work, and he said that he's been monitoring somebody who has been laundering cash through Magic the Gathering cards, because apparently like this is something that you can actually buy with crypto, and then you can get like like in real life kind of fiat off ramp, because you get a broker, and yeah, you lose 10% because you gotta pay a premium to get the money out. But apparently someone's done this with like $25,000. He's been buying like the rarest Magic the Gathering cards. So Zach is like, following the on chain, and like this dude is doing this. And somebody responds, found him. This is
It is pretty solid. And I have to say, too, I think those are, shout out to Snapchat, my former employer. I think those are Snap spectacles he's wearing, too. So he's got the right fit on. He's a good guy.
His shirt says, "If I die, delete my browser history." So that's also a pasta that I didn't catch until now.
You can see like under Zach, somebody says like, "I'm never deleting this app." I mean, this is like the pure stuff that Twitter just sometimes, you deal with a lot of junk, but occasionally you get a gem like this on Twitter. So I agree. I will continue using Twitter even with whatever Elon does with it. This is just too epic.
Wait. Justin, can you show the other? He's also a number one spender for this other fine lady, Charlotte.
I saw this. This is like a little bit of a flex. Like she shows hers, and it's even more than the 60,000. It's like 100,000 that this guy spent on this one.
$107,000 US. Wow.
For a year.
I think we need to see who else comes out of the woodwork.
Well, Lamar, if you're a listener, drop a comment. We'll have you for like a 2-minute special on the show, and we'll make it happen.
We have to find him a queen.
If you come on, Lamar, Jordy will consider getting an OnlyFans. Seeing these numbers.
I'll go to Irene Zhao and Marin and all the prime crypto girls. I'll get one of them to join the show.
No, like I mean, this man spent $170,000 on 2 accounts. Like, if he finds a queen, then all that money can go towards buying crypto coins, right? Like, we have to help. We have to 3-3 ourselves.
Let's 3-3 it.
Yeah, you could argue that was a better use of money than buying Kanto.
Oh, what? Yeah, actually though, yeah. If he finds his queen.
All right, Jeff. So who gets the chef hat this week? You have I think 3 very solid options.
Yeah, I'd say no question the OnlyFans piece. That there's like lore behind it. There's lore around the Magic the Gathering. It's like the full kind of the three parts of the movie, the kind of three acts.
You get the full coin web. Awesome. All right. I'm sorry, Justin. You'll have to wait another
Next time.
week. Cool. I hope everybody enjoyed the episode. It's been one of my favorites. Thanks, Jeff, for coming on. It was a blast. Um, no pun intended. And yeah, thanks everybody. See you guys next time. Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Thanks for having me, guys.